Good morning, everyone. I want to thank all of you for being here, and it's terrific to have this opportunity to be together and to welcome all of you to Georgetown. We're excited to have all of you here as a part of this year's national convening of the Coalition for Transformational Education. I'm deeply grateful to Rick Miller for his leadership in bringing us together and for this opportunity to celebrate the mission of this coalition as we celebrate and share the work of our institutions to promote lifelong learning, wellness, and engaged leadership opportunities for our students. I have the privilege of formally introducing Rick to all of you in just a moment. This coalition he has built is helping to amplify one of the enduring elements of higher education, the formation of our students. Our nation's colleges and universities have deep histories in supporting the full development, the formation of our young people, and we understand this responsibility as an element of our mission, of our purpose. Many places contribute to formation. What distinguishes the work of colleges and universities is the central place given to knowledge. We introduce our students to approaches to knowing, to different perspectives, different bodies of knowledge. Most importantly, we help our students understand how to integrate, appropriate, challenge, critique knowledge, how to see patterns, to make connections, identify anomalies. And I think we can all remember moments during our own formation when we just knew that we were in possession of something new, something we struggled to grasp, an insight, an awareness, a connection, a comprehension, an understanding. And perhaps this came from a book we read or a conversation that we had been immersed in. I think regardless, we can remember when we had those moments and what those moments felt like, that sense of joy of experiencing just what knowledge feels like. These moments stay with us. They become part of who we are. They shape and define us after the moment has passed. And universities provide a place for protecting and nurturing resources of incomparable value for deepening self-understanding, self-awareness, self-knowledge, resources that support the interior work of making meaning of one's life. I think we all seek to provide a context for our students to become their most authentic selves, and our colleges and universities contribute to this interior work in which our students are engaged, the work through which an authentic self can emerge. Our students carry their experiences of formation with them throughout their lives as they engage and uphold their responsibilities in the communities in which they participate. Now, for many of our colleges, this takes place in the context of a residential campus. And there are many different ways of building and sustaining community inside and outside the classroom. In different contexts or moments, we might use terms like wellness or flourishing to describe aspects of this work. These are interrelated ideas that come together as our students engage in the work of formation and doing the work that enables them to discover that sense of interior freedom when their decisions and actions are in alignment with their most deeply held values. The coalition, through this national convening, has brought us together to talk about this transformational experience, to share and learn from one another, to understand new possibilities around wellness and flourishing, to understand how we may deepen this work in our own communities in lasting ways. So Rick, it is a great privilege to have you here. Let me now introduce him to you all. Dr. Rick Miller is the founding chair of the Coalition for Transformational Education, working alongside Keith Buffington and the members of the Executive Committee and the Steering Committee to guide the Coalition's activities. He's long been a leader in higher education, serving in academic leadership and faculty roles at the University of Iowa, the University of Southern California, the University of California, Santa Barbara. And I think, as you all know, in 1999, he took on the responsibility for building and leading the newly established Olin College of Engineering in Massachusetts, an engineering school that pioneered new integrated models of teaching and learning. In 2020, he transitioned to the role of President Emeritus and Professor Emeritus of Mechanical Engineering. Throughout his career and in his 2 decades at Olin, he's been dedicated to reimagining education for the 21st century. In 2009, he and colleagues from Duke and USC established the Grand Challenges Scholars Program to provide a framework to educate students to engage complex challenges organized around, as the program describes, 14 game-changing goals for improving life on the planet. Nearly 100 engineering schools now participate in this program. Rick has served on a number of national bodies shaping the future of science and education, including as chair of the board on higher education and the workforce of the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, and as chair of the Engineering Advisory Committee of the National Science Foundation. A member of the Advisory Committee for the Lemelson Foundation, the Advisory Council for the Milken Center for Advancing the American Dream, the Board of Trustees at the Asian University for Women, and a research affiliate at MIT. In 2017, he laid the foundation for this group, this coalition that convenes today, animated by the idea that higher education contributes not only great jobs, but great lives. He convened a group of 20 colleagues and established this coalition, which has grown over the years, and we're very grateful, very excited to have all of you here with us for this year's national convening. And today, among his many activities supporting the coalition, he works closely with our colleague, Marjorie Malpidi, as a senior advisor to the magazine on mental health and higher education, Learning Well, which is right at your places. I think Rick is going to speak from his place. If you'll see, he's moving a little more slowly right now, so we're going to turn it right over to Rick now. But Rick and all of his colleagues who have brought us to this moment, on behalf of all of us, Rick, we want to thank you. It's wonderful to have you all here with us and have this chance to spend this time together over these 2 days. My great privilege now to turn it over to Rick Miller.
Thanks, Jack, for that overly generous introduction. My mom would have been proud. I'm so delighted to have you here in this group today. I started this a few years ago, as Jack pointed out. When I left Olin, I announced to the board I'm leaving 2 years early because we have to take the lessons learned there from this experimentation to all of higher ed, not just engineering. And of course, they said, but no one will listen to you. You're an engineer, remember? My aunt and uncle think I fix cars and TVs, so you can't have ideas about education. It was a nice to have because we'd seen so many interesting things happen to kids who graduated from Olin. Like, for instance, one of them you already know, who is Frances Haugen, the Facebook whistleblower, was an Olin grad, and I knew her when she was in the 7th grade, and she shared a music stand with our younger daughter in junior high school. You would not have picked her out at that point as someone who would be invited by President Biden to the State of the Union address in 22. Education changed who she is really sort of the bottom line. And we really, thinking about it, realized that it didn't come from the equations of thermodynamics. Not everything that's important in life comes from a book. A lot of it comes from your heart. And that is sort of a sacred responsibility that we have in education. It's never been more urgent than it is now. When we first started this coalition idea was a nice to have. You know, if you could, besides getting the numbers right and getting a job, wouldn't it be great if you had opportunities to think about big problems and get engaged in life? I think it's now urgent, okay? There are red lights flashing on the dashboard. The public doesn't understand higher education. I think the US stands out on the global stage, perhaps as the only developed country where public support for the notion of higher education and even for science is at an all-time low. No other country is as confused about this as we are. So we need to think about how we communicate and how we change the narrative. And I think it starts with our relationship with the next generation and our sacred responsibility to prepare them for what happens next in life. And this reminds me, actually, of an experience where I first sort of really came to grips with this. And it's back again when my younger daughter was in middle school. She was interested in music. So we took her to the Suzuki schools for music. Has anybody heard of the Suzuki schools? Yeah, so a number of people. So if you've been there, you know they have a really interesting pattern of teaching people about music. The first thing you discover is the parents have to go to all the lessons too. So you don't drop your kid off and then pick them up when they're done. You spend the hour with them. And I learned how to teach, really, by watching how they do this. I mean, when we first started, she was like 8, and she was trying to play the violin. And the teacher had this way about them. The first 2 things that came out of the teacher's mouth were every time something about praise. Oh, I can see that you've worked on holding your hand right now, okay? And you're holding the bow just perfectly. The third thing was a correction, but the student didn't understand it was a correction because it was so much fun. She would say, you know that middle part that is really hard to do? I think we can do it better. Let's do it together. And there was some correction. Then there were 2 more things that were positive, and then there was a correction. And by the time you got to the end of it, she couldn't wait to come back next time. You know, it's just like feeling really good. And then right after that, I went back to the university, and I was in this class of teaching basic physics to incoming students. It did not go like the Suzuki method, okay? Look to your left and look to your right. One of you won't be here by the end of the semester. Hey, we could do better. The thing I want you to remember is the way Suzuki starts is by bringing the parents into the room. Right now, 2 out of 3 Americans do not have a college degree. They're called upon to fund higher education at an increasing level. They don't understand what goes on, and there's a problem with trust, and there's a problem with understanding of what we do. If we could change one thing, I think if we could change it so that we are trusted because they know our principal mission in life is to open doors for the next generation and to help them develop an opportunity for upward mobility and a lifetime of flourishing, as Jack so eloquently explained. These are foundational missions that we have in higher ed that sometimes get overlooked by our commitment to try to win the Nobel Prize. I don't think they are exclusionary. You can do both, but you need to pay attention to our kids as our primary responsibility. So with that as a sort of opening comment, I'd like to introduce Keith Buffington, who is our executive director, a dear friend. I think Keith is the most inherently optimistic person I think I've ever known. No matter what, he's always got a smile on his face, and he radiates warmth and kindness, which is exactly the mission that we need the coalition to do. I hope you'll find at the end of this time that this trip was worth it, that you found like-minded people who are committed to the same way of thinking about our mission as you do, so that we can share best practices, learn from each other, and create a national movement to change the narrative about what education means. Thank you very much. Let me invite Keith to the podium.
Thank you, Rick, and thank you, Jack, for those wonderful words of welcome to all of you, and I want to echo those and extend my own welcome. It is fabulous to see you all here in the audience. We're very pleased that you've made the effort to come here. We're pleased that you are here in person. We do have some people who are Zooming in and listening remotely, but it's such a great privilege to bring people together, particularly in the years after the pandemic, so that we can really share each other's experiences and build a sense of community for the coalition and for each of you and all of your work. So my role for today is mostly, and tomorrow, is to be master of ceremonies and to keep things moving and to answer questions if you have any. Dana and I and others will help you with all of the little details of things as we move along. But again, thank you for being here. And I also want to thank Georgetown for providing us with this facility. It is fabulous. They've done a tremendous job of setting it up. and also all the other people who are here making this all work. The layout has been fantastic. I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to come together and to learn from one another. And speaking of that, there are things on your table that we want you to take note of. There is Learning Well magazine, which we'll hear a little bit more about today and tomorrow. That's a publication of the Coalition. It's an independent magazine. Marjorie Malpidi is the editor-in-chief. There are some articles in there, some of them about the members of the Coalition, some of them about other things related to flourishing, to teaching and learning, and to student mental health, and other things that are related to what all of us do. So I encourage you to take a look at that. You also have a packet of information and sheets that are yet to be filled out. There is some activities for you. We want this to be an active session for all of you. And you'll notice in the packet, there are a couple of sheets that are labeled for today and for tomorrow, which is really reflections and discussion. We want you to listen, of course, to all of the presentations and to think about how that connects to you. Maybe how it connects to things that you might want to do with the Coalition or things that you want to do with others. And to jot down a couple of notes. We want you to do this throughout the day and a half of the conference. We're going to bring you together towards the end and put you together in groups in areas that you're most interested in to talk about those things. Again, the overarching message, I think, for this conference, besides just thinking about student well-being, it's a huge part of obviously what we do, but it's also about building community. As Rick was saying, it takes people in people's lives to really make a difference. And I think all of us in the room are here because we're focused on making the lives of students better. And we can do that in lots of different ways. And of course, we want them to have good lives and good educational experiences and learn and gain knowledge from what they experience while they're undergraduates or beyond. But we also want to set them up for a lifetime of well-being. And what builds that process is really a sense of community. I was at the reception last night, I was thinking about one of the keynote speakers that we had last year, Bob Waldinger, who's the head of the Harvard Study of Adult Development. And he, last year, had published a new book called The Good Life. And The Good Life is all about how to find that good life for yourself based on 85 years of data. The Coalition is also very focused on, of course, assessing things and learning from the data that we collect. But the Harvard Study of Adult Development really has looked at data for 85 years and has asked probing questions of people throughout their lifetimes and their descendants and their spouses and their friends about what has contributed to their sense of well-being. And the answer, not surprisingly, is relationships. It's the relationships in people's lives. And they take many different forms, of course. There are the people who are most close to you, their spouses and children and close friends, the people who show up in the middle of the night when something happens to you. But it's also the people that you meet in other situations. Sometimes it's people that you just have passing acquaintances with, people that you get your coffee from every day, or people that deliver your mail, or the people that you meet at a conference. And one of the things I took away from Bob's talk was the fact that coming together, particularly in person like this, is making us better. It is contributed to our own well-being, it is making us healthier, it is making us happier, and it's giving us new opportunities in life. And that was a tremendous message for me, and I think that's at the heart of what a lot of the Coalition is trying to achieve, bringing people together to make lives better for all of us and for our students. So it's something to think about as we work through the next couple of days. Again, we encourage you to jot down some notes. We'll be coming back to discuss those and get a chance to get your reactions to that. All right, so we have a wonderful program throughout the next day and a half. We have parts of the program which are focused on individual programs with various member institutions. We have some Ignite talks, some very fast-paced talks to give you a taste of what institutions are doing. We have a poster session, which will happen later today. We have some panel discussions where we'll have a chance to hear from a variety of people about not only student well-being, but some of the bigger issues in higher education that Rick was alluding to that we all grapple with. And that's the background. In some ways, that's the elephant in the room, but that's something that we all need to think about as we try to implement the things that we want to do with our students. So we have quite a range of different activities for you. We hope you all enjoy it. And of course, we appreciate all of your feedback. There'll be an opportunity to give feedback. But throughout the day and a half, this is about you. It's about you and your programs as much as it is about the coalition.